Did Messi lose the World Cup because of terrorist threats? Did something happen before the final that we were never supposed to know? Because buried underneath the celebration, the goals, and the controversies, there are reports of terrorist threats, criminal threats, threats against Messi's family. And according to one police document, Messi's name was mentioned specifically. But that's not even the strangest part. I am about to enter the Atlanta Stadium and blow up Messi with 4 bombs strapped to my body. Think about the sentence for a second. A person threatening to enter a stadium with explosives strapped to his body, and specifically targeting Lionel Messi. I just heard right in the middle of this recording that Messi's father has expired, and it's very tragic. And I can just imagine the pressure that Messi was going through while playing in the World Cup. Because in the beginning of the World Cup, Messi's father was struggling with a very, very dangerous and life-threatening disease, sickness. He was in tears in the first training session, and he was seen crying after the first match. He had addressed this to the media, saying that these tears are not for football. These tears are for something personal. And later we all came to know that Messi's father was going through a lot, and Messi was going through a lot. Messi playing so brilliantly in this World Cup, even after knowing that his father was struggling with life and death, is amazing and respectful. And a lesson to all those players who try to give reasons and excuses for not winning trophies and not winning something for their own country. You don't need excuses like Messi. You don't need excuses if you are confident and talented. We will be talking about this more, and we are with Messi and his family here. Let's get back to the threats at hand. Another reported threat involved a caller claiming that he and 2 others had handmade bombs, an AR-15, an automatic gun to target police and players from both the teams. And according to the police document, Messi was specifically mentioned. Now ask yourself, why Messi? And more importantly, how serious was this threat being taken? Because this wasn't the first warning surrounding Messi. March 2023, Rosario. Gunmen opened fire at supermarket connected to Messi's family in Rosario. And then came the message written on a cardboard. Messi, we are waiting for you. That's not football banter. That's a threat. That's a threat. And when you're talking about gangs in South America, those words become considerably more chilling. And here where history gets disturbing. Remember Andres Escobar? July 2nd, 1994, a Colombian defender, Andres Escobar, was murdered in Medellin by Pablo Escobar and his gang. Just days after he scored an own goal against the United States at the 1994 World Cup. One mistake, one football match, and then a real life tragedy. So when you hear about threats surrounding a World Cup, you can't simply dismiss them as internet trolling, because football has crossed that line before. And then, after all these murky threats and stories, Argentina had looked like warriors throughout the tournament. They fought, they pressed, they attacked, they survived. And then the final happened. Suddenly, Argentina looked different. The intensity wasn't the same. The confidence wasn't the same. The team looked strangely hesitant. And Messi? Even during the warm-up, footage appeared to show him missing several attempts, which is quite unlike Messi. Of course, a bad warm-up proves absolutely nothing. But combined with everything else, fans started asking questions. Was Messi simply having an off day? Or was he carrying something much heavier than the football pressure? The story, the tunnel. And then comes the footage that really makes people wonder Messi appears to speak to his teammates before the match, and one phrase has attracted enormous attention. Forget it. Yes, Messi saying, forget everything to his teammates. Forget what? Did something happen before they even stepped on the pitch? And that's it. There is currently no verified evidence proving Messi was ordered or threatened or pressured into losing the final. But that doesn't stop the question from being asked. Because if a credible threat existed, would the players necessarily tell the public? Would they risk causing panic? Would they even tell their families? Or would they simply play the game and say no? And then there is Rodri. And just when you think the story couldn't get stranger, Rodri wins the Golden Ball. Now, was he a deserving winner? Absolutely not. Then why? Why that decision? Was it simply football's merit? Or was something else happening behind the scenes? But when you are investigating a mystery, sometimes the questions are more interesting than the answers. The big question, let's put everything on the table. A reported terrorist threat, a threat allegedly mentioning Messi, a previous attack connected to his family, the horrifying history of South America, gangs and football, Messi's unusual looking warm-up, a mysterious tunnel conversation, Argentina's sudden collapse in the final, and a controversial golden ball decision. Is all of this connected? I'm not telling you Argentina was forced to lose. I'm not telling you Messi was threatened to lose. And I'm not definitely telling you the final was rigged. I'm asking something much more uncomfortable. What if the story of that World Cup final hasn't been completely told yet? Because if additional police documents, witness testimonies, security reports, or credible investigations ever emerge, we may have to look at that final very differently. And maybe the biggest story of the World Cup wasn't the trophy. Maybe it's what has happened before the players even stopped, before the players even stepped on the pitch. And if you think the story ends here, it doesn't. Because the next piece of the puzzle is even stranger.